One of the most nerve-wracking tasks a football player can accomplish is taking a penalty kick. A team could benefit, draw even, eliminate an opponent, or win or lose a major title in certain circumstances. Other times it can just be a situation that irritates you, purely frustrates the players and the fans. Some missed penalties have been so dreadful and painful that neither the player nor the fans, even years later, have entirely recovered from them. The worst penalty misses are down below, from John Terry's biggest mistake to Baggio throwing away a World Cup final. Here are some of the worst penalty misses of all time. Graziano Pell vs Germany. Let's start the video with probably the biggest World Cup troll moment in recent decades. After a failed effort at mind games by Graziano Pell, Germany advanced to Euro 2016 semi-finals at Italy's expense in an absolutely hilarious penalty shootout. Pell appeared to be giving sarcastic gestures to Neuer, who undoubtedly had done his research on all of Italy's penalty takers. The gesture was in a mocking manner as Pell walked up for his pitiful attempt, showcasing the ball would be chipped towards the center of the goal once more, as it had been with Pell's previous 3 penalties. Naturally, Neuer was not having any of it. In a penalty shootout, it seems extremely foolish to attempt to frighten the world's best goalkeeper. In the end, it appears Pell frightened himself, because it was obvious he had no idea what he was trying to do with his clumsy effort. Pell's pathetic attempt gained widespread attention online after being dubbed the simplest save from a penalty ever. Pell had to apologize to the entire country for the mistake because it was that severe. He clarified that his goal in misleading Neuer was not to show him disrespect. Your thoughts on Pell's gesture? Was it disrespectful or was it just playing games? John Terry vs Manchester United. Even the Moscow rain couldn't cover the Chelsea captain's emotions at the 2008 Champions League final against Manchester United, due to a penalty miss that will continue to haunt John Terry to this day. The all-English final proceeded to penalties, after the score remained tied at 1-1. Terry had the chance to win his first ever Champions League medal when Ronaldo missed his spot, but he slipped as he took to the field and hit the outside of the post. Teammate Nicolas Anelka would also miss to witness United win the trophy in a memorable final as the shootout ended. Terry has acknowledged that he still dwells on the error that night, but after Chelsea's 2011-2012 Champions League victory over Bayern Munich, which also ended in penalties, Terry's suffering might be somewhat lessened. However, Terry was suspended in the final. Had he been involved, the outcome might have been slightly different. Dimitar Berbatov vs Everton. Taking penalties reveals more about a player's personality. It strips them to the bone. The whole stadium goes quiet as the player walks up to the penalty spot. In the FA Cup semi-final against Everton in 2009, the first penalty was taken by Tim Cahill. Cahill does not do subtlety, but most would expect him to at least hit the target. But when he missed, many United fans thought we'd be back here next month. As Berbatov ambled to the penalty spot, he showed little emotion as he rarely does. He picked up the ball and respotted it. But what he did next was in essence the conundrum that is Berbatov, and the problem that ex-manager Ferguson had to solve. It wasn't a run up to the ball, but more a gentle stroll. There was no stutter, no deception. It's hard to say if he even tapped or pushed the ball, but there is no doubt it was not hit hard at all. Howard must have been surprised as he saved with his legs, surprised at how long it took the ball to reach him. It personified the main criticism of Berbatov, his lack of conviction and laziness for the beautiful game. Andriy Shevchenko vs Liverpool. In one of the most stunning comebacks of all time, the 2005 Champions League final is a match that soccer fans will remember forever. It is one of the greatest moments in Liverpool's history, but is certainly an evening that Andriy Shevchenko and AC Milan will not look back on too fondly. After taking a commanding 3-0 lead in the first half, it appeared that the final was all but over. Liverpool then shocked the entire world by scoring 3 goals in the space of 6 minutes, sending the game into extra time, and then on to penalties. The enormous momentum shift had clearly had an impact on the AC Milan players, and the penalty scoreline at 3-2, it was down to Shevchenko to keep their hopes alive. He would send his effort straight down the middle. It was easily saved, completing an astonishing comeback win for Liverpool. Alessandro Del Piero vs Aston Villa. This is an example of ordinary penalty kick takers getting it just completely wrong. During an example of a penalty shootout, the player with nerves of steel usually takes the last penalty. It's common knowledge that whenever taken, Del Piero's penalties are always put well. According to reports, after kicking 65 penalties and sinking 61 of them, the Italian has a career success rate of 93%. Other players don't even dream of such a crazy record, let alone even making one. As a result, it's hardly shocking that the TV announcer at the 2009 Peace Cup had already announced the winner before Del Piero ever kicked the ball. In this preliminary competition, Juventus faced Aston Villa in the championship game. However, even after being one of Italy's and Serie A's most renowned players, Alessandro Del Piero struck the penalty quite poorly. The commentator even laughed and said that is the worst penalty ever taken, because it was that terrible. Juventus, despite being heavy favorites, ultimately fell to the young Aston Villa team. Peter Devine vs Whitley Bay. One of such events that belongs in the dustbin of time should be the 1991 HFS Northern Premier League Division 1 Cup Final. It was a game that may linger in the back of the attendees' minds, but nothing more than that. Unfortunately for Peter Devine, it is a day that he will remember for the rest of his life. On that fateful day, Nick Hancock's football nightmares on VHS made his incredible penalty miss infamous, and viewers at home watched it countless times, laughing heartily at the sight of a disastrous spot kick. Our laughter was his suffering. The stumble, the miskick, the futile attempt to follow through, and the fabrication of an injury to hide his embarrassment make this truly the worst penalty of all time. Truly divine. Bersant Salina vs West Brom. Bersant Salina's attempt from the penalty spot in a match against West Brom in 2019 had been dubbed by fans as the worst penalty miss in Swansea City history. After a brief run-up, the Kosovan skewered the ball to his right and failed to even reach the goal. Because it was embarrassingly poor, defender Chris Brunt told him straight out what he thought of it. You guessed right, nothing good came out of his mouth. Gareth Southgate vs Germany. England was confident in their ability to turn their fortunes around during Euro 1996 and was hoping to do so. They made an amazing run all the way to the semi-finals and were about to go to their first final since they memorably won in the 1966 World Cup. Prior to that, they had to defeat a strong German squad, and after 120 minutes, there was no difference in goals between the teams. As both teams successfully converted their 5 penalties, the tensions increased when the game went into sudden death. Gareth Southgate, an English defender, moved forward to attempt to score the 6th goal, but Andreas Kopka stopped him. Then Germany's Müller scored, advancing them to the final where they would triumph. England's pain increased after they missed the penalty kick, and Southgate was inconsolable. After Southgate took charge of the England U21 team, penalties undoubtedly were frequently rehearsed there. Roberto Baggio vs Brazil. This is one of the most tragic errors in football history. The World Cup final is one of the biggest stages there is, yet despite being one of the all-time greats, Roberto Baggio is frequently remembered for this miss. The 1994 World Cup between Italy and Brazil was made possible in large part due to the outstanding performance of Baggio, who scored 5 goals during the tournament. For the first time ever, the final game would go to penalties, and Baggio would need to score to keep his team's dreams and the dreams of all Italians alive. However, he ended up missing the penalty by putting it over the bar. Much to the delight of the Brazilian side and the dismay of his teammates, Baggio's mistake was undoubtedly influenced by intense pressure that he was under. Which one of these penalty kicks do you think was the worst? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, and also subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.